22 years old, playing really well, part of a great team. Then 2 weeks before the World Cup, I start coughing up blood. And so my lungs were filled with these blood clots, which is a miracle I was actually alive. So I had to withdraw from the World Cup.
Hello and welcome to the RugbyPass Offload with Max Laif and Ryan Wilson. And today we'll be joined later on by Springbok legend in Pierre Spies. Before that, Max, you win the Look of the Week award with your shiner and stitches. Talk us through it. What's going on?
Look, I've matched up my other one now, so now we're symmetrical.
Yeah, come close.
So over here we've got 6 stitches. But yeah,
not quite. Yeah, not quite in the eyebrow line, but that's
not quite, which is a bit of a shame. But it'll still be prominent. It'll be prominent. Yeah. In the great words of Evel Knievel. Basically, 5 minutes in, lads. Chris Vu's tackling someone. He spins out, headbutts me. I get like the dancing legs, like Captain Jack Sparrow. Cognitively all there, but like just still the foundations are built on sand vibes. Had to go off, past the HIA, come back on 1 scrum and a carry. That first carry, Daffyd Jenkins, the big fella, young Welsh lock, large and in charge, Schwabi bastard, tall, dark and handsome, tries to tackle my eye with his nose and just splits me like a peach. And I was just straight back off, mate. Yeah.
I went back and watched the highlights, and obviously they'd said that you'd gone off early, but I didn't see the first bit when you went off with the HIA. So that's it. Once that happened, did they just pull you straight off?
Yeah, straight off. Yeah. Oh no, they saw another angle of my my stanky leg, and they didn't like it, so he's pulled me back off.
Explain actually what happens when you get smashed up.
So essentially, you've got like a checklist of words he'll give you, and then you have to get to your baseline, which you've already pre-recorded. They've got all this data, so they give you a list of about 10 words, yeah, and they're usually random, but they're not really random. They're all sort of kind of similar. So it'd be like, I don't know, they're usually a set of words. So it'd be like penny, dollar, finger, cotton, pepper, honey, movie, sunset, and then you'll have to say that over and over until you get enough, and then you've got to do some balance testing. So you've got to do staggered leg, and then you've got to do 1 leg, eyes shut, hold it for 20 seconds or something. Then you'll have to repeat the words, and then you have to go through a list of symptoms and tell them you're fine in order to get back on the field. But anyway, I was doing my second one, and Big Daffyd comes in, and his nose is like quite lopsided. It's on the other side of his face, like a bit of a Mike Tyndall jobby. And they get their nos out to supplicate him whilst they put that puppy back in place. He's like, Max boy, you got to come try this. This is brilliant. He's just having a great time back there whilst they're fiddling with his face, and he's just puffing and puffing like Darth Vader on this tank.
Yeah, until they put it back across. Was he squealing or did he?
No, not at all. Nah, it was a bit of a throwback lock. But yeah, it was good crack. And then obviously I had to get my eye stitched. But yeah, all a bit of a shit day, losing to a 14-man Exeter Chiefs essentially. But it was a big game for them. It was a big emotional day, obviously. All those big faces that have been associated with the Exeter Chiefs legacy are leaving. So there's almost a sort of theatrical irony to it that they managed to get the win at the end there with that 1 point margin.
Did you have
bastards?
Did you have local anaesthetic, or did you take it like a man as well?
Nah, he put it in straight away, mate. It hurts so bad, even just him. I was like, thank God, because I did not want you to treat me like a tapestry.
What's weird with that, right, Mark, is when you get something like that, if you go off and you have to get stitched up, they obviously don't have time to put a local anaesthetic in, so they just do it. But you don't really feel it because you've got adrenaline pumping. It's always worse when you know you're not going back on.
Yeah, at the end of the game where you're a little bit cold, you've been
like, in the rain. No, here we go. Whereas when it's like mid-match and you're like, right, quick, just get the stitches in, and they just whack them in. It's actually not that bad.
So true. That's so true. Yeah, that is true.
You look good with it. You wear it well. It well.
So, despite how aesthetically pleasing it looks, how was Pat Lam afterwards? Was there any anger around the loss?
Yeah, there's a fair bit of frustration, obviously. Like, I mean, we controlled vast parts of that game, probably set ourselves up to win it, but the plucky Chiefs, the League of Shadows, managed to pull it back. Those dreaded ninjas of Devon. But individual errors and discipline. I think we had like 17 penalties in the end. Always difficult going to Sandy Park with that kind of discipline and getting a dub over them. So
discipline, schlischpline. Like, what was Hoggy giving you much chat?
No, he actually was very. He was coming over and he was very nice. Yeah, he was like, "Are you right? Head's okay." Yeah.
Oh, bless him.
Quite pedantic. I appreciated it a lot. Yeah.
And any sign of the fugitive, Jack Null? Did you boys?
Yeah, I had a quick chinwag with him. I did enjoy the post. I told it. I was like, that mustard post was class.
The mustard post was so good. That was next level shithousery. If there's a way of going about it, you get your clothing brand that you have nothing to do with in terms of like media, and they put it out there. I had nothing to do with it. And I also saw another one where I think it was Andy Goo commented on something. I put something up about what the ref had done, and all I saw was Jack Noel, no comment underneath.
yeah.
Your own fuck's given. I love it.
Yeah.
Explain the mustard thing again, just to those who didn't see it.
Downlighting.
Yeah, exactly.
All in mustard swag.
Cigar.
And black and white. He's like, last dance, MJ cigar. And it's just, what's 10 grand anyway?
What is 10 grand anyway? Yeah. Did you get any kickback from last week?
No anonymous emails from the powers that be, thankfully.
Here we are. We're all right then.
We're all right. We're in the clear, lads. We're in the clear.
Right, let's talk about somebody who's synonymous with Exeter. Luke Cowan Dickie might not actually be leaving, or certainly might not be going to Montpellier because he was on the piss and missed a meeting or a medical, right? And they're threatening to rip up his contract. What is going on here?
I know. Well,
outstanding work.
Went to the land of the grape and got real right, and it was wrong. It was wrong. Yeah.
Starters, you mean to go on your first day? Like, you know, he's obviously like, heard all the stories of how loose it is out there. I thought they won't care. They'll be all right.
I will put that reputation to the test.
Exactly.
There was a no comment from Montpellier. I'm sure I saw that in the French press.
Well, if it's no comment, that means it's not good.
Yeah, that would be pretty brutal, though, wouldn't it?
Hey, but it's a throwback. There's a rock star sort of glamour to it that I appreciate. You know what I mean? Yeah, why not?
We need that in rugby more, right?
No, not too much of it, but yeah, just wow. I think it's good to have endearing characters. Maybe not quite so self-destructive. Could be a financial loss of mammoth proportions, but hopefully not.
Did you hear also that he was with his agent, and his agent also didn't make it? So what sort of a night where the person who's supposed to definitely get you there also doesn't make it?
There's obviously been some loss of translation. That's what I'd blame it on. I'd say, sorry, that I can't speak French.
Français?
Parlez français? No.
Parlez français? No.
They are just obviously there's been a language issue there.
Oh, actually, by the way, I just read on the French rugby site, he actually spent the night in the drunk tank, so he was in a cell.
Oh, okay.
That's what. Look, according to RMC Sport, which is like a sports saying, he spent the night in a cellule de dégrisement, which is basically the drunk tank.
Oh, that changes things very quickly. That's not just a missed medical. That's a court case. Oh, no.
Naughty. Yeah.
Oh, shit. That's not good.
Yeah, that is not good.
That's a whole lot of different. That's, oh, no. Oh, bless him. I feel for him. I've got anxiety for him.
Yeah, that's sketchy.
Go on, what's the worst thing, Wills, from your perspective? What's the worst thing a teammate's done that's resulted in like some ridiculous fallout?
Oh, there's been hundreds of them, but I'm not. Yeah, there's been so many. I mean, we've got on buses and the same thing. Like Rob Vabarko, his name was. No, he was in a prison cell somewhere. They were trying to get him out. But talking to medicals, remember that trip I told you about in Monaco, where we went down to the south of France on the private jet, did the full works, ended up in a 3-day boozer. Finn Russell, actually, we jumped in a taxi from Monaco, heading back the next morning, like, and I mean dying to another level. And remember I said they didn't private jet us back from there, they easy jetted us back, and we stood in the queue with Victor Matfield. But we got to the airport and Finn just was on like, autopilot, and he was just with us. And we were like, Finn, aren't you meant to be flying to Paris to sign your contract? And he was like, yeah. We're like, mate, this isn't, I don't think you were. So he goes up to the desk. He's not even in the right terminal. He's got half an hour to his flight, and he nearly missed that. But he went after, 3-day piss up to go and sign his Racing 92 contract. So God knows what they thought of him stinking of booze when he turned up. But it's not as bad as getting stuck in the clink and missing your medical.
I've been dragged out of my room with bags and all to the bus a few times on a nice Europe.
I bet you're back. I bet you don't set alarms or anything.
No. I just get into bed, slumber for that 1.5 hours you've got, and then I hope for the best, all the very chicken breast to get back to the bus in time. So hopefully you're with someone real conscientious as a roommate.
Yeah, that's why I hated when I was captain. They used to try and give you your own room. One, I hate being on my own, and two, like
you're in your own time zone.
Yeah, and you rely on that person to tell you where you're meant to be, what time's dinner, what time's recovery, what time's that, you know?
Yeah.
Suddenly when you're on your own, you're just in a different realm, and then start missing everything. I'll never forget. First time I was captain of Scotland, got given my own room, and I was like, I should be all right. Missed the fucking team walkthrough because I was in my bedroom. Absolutely no idea, because you usually have someone telling you, oh, by the way, we've got to go to this. It's the good thing about being a senior player. You've always got someone a bit younger looking after you. But yeah, Max, I couldn't even think how bad you'd be.
That's why I always room with Jan Thomas. Always, he's all over the calendar. He's
your little PA.
Let's actually get on to a little bit of rugby. Start in the Prem. Saracens will be playing Saints at home, one of the semi-finals, and Sale will be welcoming the Tigers up to their gaff. Now, interesting stat, 82% of playoffs have ended in defeat for the away sides. Are we thinking Saracens Sale final?
I feel like Saints might do a job, you know. What? I know. There's some.
You're going Saints Sale.
I know, but yeah, I just feel like Saints could do it. They're peaking nicely. They're on like serious form. They got some big names back, like Courtney Laws is back in there. Sarries, I mean, never doubt Sarries either at home, but I think it could be a Northampton Sale final for me.
Oh, there you have it. Well, I reckon it's definitely going to be Sarries.
Oh, Leicester though. Oh.
And I don't think Sale will beat Leicester. So I reckon Sarries
Leicester.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Northampton Leicester. I'll go Northampton Leicester actually. Sorry, I've got to change that. Yeah, Leicester.
But you don't think Sale have it? We both don't think Sale have any hope then.
Oh no, but George Ford's on flames. It's tough, man. It's so hard. I don't know. George Ford against Leicester Tigers. Oh,
and Manu, right?
And Manu. So many good little narratives. Mate, I'm not sure. It's anyone's guess.
Well, you got to decide. So choose.
I've got to decide. I'm going to go Saints Leicester.
Saints Leicester, and I'm going Sarries.
So that's is that 2 away wins I'm going for against the stats?
yeah, you are. Yeah.
We are delighted to be joined by a man who's known as the ultimate rugby beast in Springboks legend, Pierre Spies. Standing at 6'4", 111 kg. He's run the 100 meters in around 10.7 seconds. Truly a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. Pierre, thanks for joining us today. Are we agreeing with that intro?
Yeah, look, that's true. Stats don't lie. So, but it was part of my career, which was quite lekker. But yeah, man. Sometimes it didn't always show on the field, which was a pity. But we tried our best.
I'm just googling what Usain Bolt ran it in. How fast did Usain Bolt run the 100?
Slightly quicker than that. He was the fastest man on earth. I'm not saying Pierre is the fastest man on earth.
Yeah, I know, but what's 1 second really if you think about it?
And
10.7 is really quick.
And Big Pierre is a lot larger than Usain Bolt. It's more of an athletic feat, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, with that in mind, Pierre, did you used to have either in club rugby or with the Springboks 100-meter race with the backs, and then you jump in and actually manage to beat some of them?
No, we didn't really have competitions like that. It would have been nice to have something like out of the game and like off the field. entertainment, but we didn't have it. Obviously, during training and a lot in fitness, we always be pushing one another. And, at the Bulls, we had a lot of fast guys there. So I don't think I was the fastest. So Brian Banner was also there. A guy like Francois Ogaard, even a guy like Bjorn Bosson, quick guys. So, but we pushed one another, and that brings the best out of you. So, and I was a forward, so I just breathed down their neck a little bit.
What an idea. I've just had a great idea, right? Pre-season, like track and field. We should all get, like each team should go out there. And so you get Max doing the shot put.
Yeah, like a combine. Yeah.
How good? How
Great
was
idea.
that?
Great idea. A lot of the players used to do athletics or either cricket. So a lot of the teams play cricket pre-season. So I think athletics will be a great idea. I did I did 100 meters, but it wasn't my best. I was actually a field athlete, so I did discus and shot put. So I finished SA champ in my final year at school with discus, and I was third in. So I was third in shot put South Africa. But my final year at school, I won the 100, the hurdles, the discus, and the shot put. But the field items were my best, so I just settled down on them. And my dad also used to be an athlete, so it was something that I just naturally turned towards.
Max, what are you going for? If you're in one event, Maxi boy, what is it?
Man, I'm like, I haven't got anything on those.
You must have it. Go. I'm back.
Tug of war. One-on-one tug of war.
Yeah.
I had to have a skipping rope involved, didn't it?
Yeah. So, I did a little bit of shot put. I just didn't have the height though. I was too short to really launch it. I always think height's quite handy in shot put.
Yeah, it's not the size, it's a technique, eh?
Yeah, the spin, the spinning dance I couldn't do either. You know that Kung Fu Panda spin you do, and then
No, I used to be all right at javelin until I wrecked all my shoulders. I was all right. Javelin was my game.
Pierre, let's talk about what you were doing at school. Was it Affy's High School?
Yeah.
And who was there? Bernard Olivier, Fourie de Prez, AB de Villiers, Faf du Plessis. I mean, you kind of pick a sport and you've got more talent there than the whole of England.
Yeah, look, it's a great school, a boys' school in Pretoria, right across the road from Loftus, the rugby stadium. And I was actually fortunate to go there. My plans was going to another high school, and my dad just said, "There's no way." And I thank God for that, because when you're in a boys' school like that, the culture just brings the best out of you. It was difficult years for me in the beginning because I was quite a late bloomer. So I had difficult years my first 2 years in school, participated in everything, but not really performed well. And then my dad just encouraged me always to, continue to stay involved and just, participate in all the sports. And yeah, like you said, like a lot of sport, great sportsmen was in that era in our school. And, we had a proper rugby team. That year, AB de Villiers actually played flyer for us when I was in grade 11. He played fly-off and played flyer for the Bulls schools team also. So he's obviously multi-talented. And Fourie de Prez was 3 years ahead of me. Why not Olivier was 2 years ahead of me. So the culture is amazing, just like so many other great schools in South Africa. So I'm just thankful I could have been there, because it does shape you in a lot of ways. And that competition brings the best out of you.
See, you said Pretoria. So is that where you were born and raised in Pretoria?
Yeah, so born and bred Pretoria, basically lived there my whole life.
I was over there earlier this season, and we played up at Loftus, and it's quite a rough place. Have you had any bad run-ins when you were younger? I can imagine it was even worse back then. There's a few scary moments. We had a car get blown up outside the hotel morning of the game.
Yeah, no, look, it's quite sad. I think the environment around it, is obviously deteriorating a little bit. So crime is also increasing quite a bit. So, but the stadium is there, and it's almost like Ellis Park, right in the middle of Hillbrow. But 30 years ago, Hillbrow was an amazing place, cleaned up and full of life. So, but crime is quite rampant. So you have to be alert when you're in Gauteng in South Africa. basically the most dangerous city in the world, Pretoria and Johannesburg. I think it's under the top 5 in the world. So we breed them rough out of Gauteng, afraid of nothing. Springbok rugby players. It's sad because we've got such a beautiful country, but the crime is quite rampant. So you've got to be clever. That's why a lot of people are actually moving down to where we are. I'm staying now in the Western Cape in George, down in the Garden Route. So a lot of the people from Gauteng are actually moving down to the Cape because of reasons like that, crime and the municipalities, etc.
Do you work in the country, in the bush, or is it like a town?
No, it's a coastal town.
Yeah.
So it's but it's in the Western Cape, but it's a beautiful area, part of the country. So like I said, a lot of the people are moving down from Gauteng, which is more inland and quite dense populated. They're coming down to the coasts because people can work remotely now, so they're staying here, and the crime is a lot less.
What are you doing now? How are you keeping busy?
I'm actually a pastor now. I'm a Christian minister. When I was 20 years old, I became a born-again Christian. God just turned my life completely around. And that was before I started playing rugby. So my career just took off then. And, I was just always a faithful believer, always attended church and so forth. And I come from a family where my family were ministers also. But I had other plans for my life and my career. I wanted to go in business and leadership training and public speaking and these kind of things. And so, long story short, that's where I ended up. I never thought that this is what I was going to be doing, but God has other plans. And, when I said yes to that, it brought me all the way down here. So when I retired in 2017 in France. And that's actually when I, entered ministry. I studied theology. Finished that last 5 years, did my internship in Pretoria, and then we got sent here in George. So now I'm the lead pastor, senior pastor of our church here in George. So if you guys are in South Africa, you're welcome to come visit, and then you can hear me preaching.
What made you at 20 become a born again Christian? Was there an event or something happened in your life?
Yeah, of course. I think look, it's just, I think you realize your life is basically in a mess. You try to work things out on your own, and you try to be a good person, and you can't. None of us can be good, and that's what it means to be born again. So it's not about being a religious person; it's about being born of the Spirit. So a friend invited me to church, and I just attended, and my life was quite at a low place. I was depressed, drinking quite a lot, partying quite a lot, and really just had no purpose in my life. And then when I attended church with him, you just realize that, God has a great plan with my life, and the purpose of my life is found in Him. And I said yes to that. And that's where actually everything changed in my life completely. A month after that, I met my wife. So everything changed. My whole career took off, and I'm just very thankful for that.
Yeah, let's take you back to your post-school days where you became the youngest player in history to make your debut for the Bulls. Take us through that experience and your memories of coming into a side with such famous and respected and no doubt terrifying players in it.
Yeah, look, so I actually was contracted as a number 8, and then I got moved to wing. Then I played for the SA under 19s, and then I made my debut for the Bulls on wing. And actually, both my Super Rugby debut and my Springbok debut, both games we lost we had 0 points. The Bulls debut, we lost 23-0 against the Highlanders in the House of Pain. And then my Springbok debut, we lost 49-0 in Brisbane. But playing for the Bulls when I was 19, so obviously it was huge hype and so forth. But I was actually injured going into that game. I pulled my quad at the captain's run. I promise you, I kicked the ball and I pulled my quad. And what do? I mean, you can't try to rub it out. Can't tell the coach like before the biggest game of your life, listen, I pulled it. And so I played and luckily the whole team played badly. So we lost badly. So I didn't look like I couldn't play. And we lost 23-0, and the newspaper headings were, we were lucky to get 0. So it was one of those days. And I was just, so, obviously just glad to get the opportunity. But after that, I was injured out, and then I played at junior level rugby again, which was good for me because I could build some confidence. And then the year after that was actually my breakthrough year with the Bulls in 2006.
You just touched upon it, but that Springbok debut is against the Wallabies, right? And getting slammed 49-0. Imagining the dressing room wasn't particularly celebratory after the match. What are your memories of that experience?
All ideas of euphoria and dreams and everything just goes out of the window because everyone speaks about how amazing your debut is and the way you feel beforehand. And so there was this build-up before the test of all our youngsters playing, and newspapers were speaking about it, and like they had interviews with me, and I was just saying how excited I am about the test, and we got clapped and we had a good team, very, very good team. And Fourie Priya was actually on the bench. He came up from the bench, and he actually saved 2 more tries. Otherwise, we would have taken 50 or 60. So it was just a bad day at the office. I mean, it's like sports. Sometimes you just cannot explain it, like why things work the way it does, and you end up getting nothing for 80 minutes. You can't even get 3 points on the board. And obviously, that was a huge blow to the coaching staff, especially the players regrouped. I got dropped, changed the team. The next game we lost. We played the All Blacks. We lost by I think 15 or 20 points. And the last game we lost by another 3 points against the Australians. So we lost all 3 games on tour. We actually lost the first game before the tour. So when we came back after tour, we lost that game also. So we had 5 games on the trot that we lost. And they wanted to fire. Jake White was the coach. They wanted to fire him. And that's when we actually had the test against the All Blacks in Rustenburg in the Royal Bafokeng Stadium. And we won that game. And that game, I was man of the match. Actually, I got into that team. 3 of our loose forwards got injured in 1 week. I wasn't in the mix. 3 of them got injured. I got into the team, played against the All Blacks, and I was man of the match. And then, things just took off again. So a week in test rugby is a long time.
Quite a few man of the match performances though in that sort of opening flurry of caps from you, right?
Yeah. So that was an official one. The week after that, we played the Aussies at Ellis Park. We beat them again. So we got the season back on track, but there was still a lot of pressure on Jake White the whole time because we didn't have a good record. And then when you finish with the Tri Nations back then, you're preparing for the end of the year tour. And then end of the year tour, we also lost first 2 games. We lost Ireland, playing our 100th centenary year. We played with those special jerseys. I don't know if you guys ever saw that, like an old school jersey. Lost against then Brian Abana actually played outside centre that game. And the week after that, we played England. We lost that game. I got injured then. So, and then they wanted to fire Jake White again. So the pressure is always there on the coaches, I guess, more than the players. So that 2006 season wasn't a great season for the Springboks when I made my debut, but then 2007 we won the World Cup. So, it doesn't really matter what happens the year before.
Just a quick one, because we've had a lot of your former Springbok teammates on here, and we always find it quite an amusing question around who had the honor of whipping you for your initiation, bearing in mind you had just been pumped 49-0. So I can only imagine the atmosphere was pretty rubbish anyway. How did you get up for it then?
No, it was Osturant, our prop. So he was actually back then, he was the most senior player. And look, you got to give the senior guys credit because they determine the atmosphere, even after a loss like that. So, I mean, what can you say? You can say nothing. So you have to put it behind you as quickly as possible. Osturant, he was the most capped guy back then, legend of the game. And I had the honor to be hit by him. Let me say it like that.
Yeah, but hold on a minute. Please don't tell me it was like, right, just walk off the pitch, sit in the change room, and then out comes the whip. Surely there's
no. So no, No, it only happens back at the hotel. So everybody gets showered up, and then it's like a nice, I'm saying formal, but semi-formal setting. And, a few, you can say, traditions. And we have the Springbok, what do you call it, code of honor that you have to read, and a few other things you have to do, which we're not allowed to elaborate on.
Right, okay. But then out comes the whip.
Sure.
A slightly more difficult section, but you were unsurprisingly picked to be part of the Springbok squad for that World Cup in France in 2007, but then disaster struck, which forced you to withdraw. For those who don't know, can you just take us through what happened?
Before the World Cup, we were very excited, and I was part of that Bulls team that had just won the Super Rugby, so we were full of confidence, and I was playing really good also, and was 22 years old, basically like at the peak of my, well, I'm saying at the peak of my career, but just playing really well, part of a great team. Then 2 weeks before the World Cup, I start coughing up blood, and when you're playing rugby, you think it's part of the game, and like maybe it's just a bad cold or whatever, an infection. And then the doctor took us for scans, and it ended up being pulmonary embolism, which is blood clots in your lungs. And the picture was quite bad, so my lungs were filled with these blood clots, which is a miracle I was actually alive, because if you have those things, it meant they actually went through your heart. And it was quite a shock because, obviously, where does it come from? I really live a clean life, eat healthy. I never used a drug in my life. And it happened. So what do you do with it? And like I said, if it wasn't for my faith, I probably would have collapsed. That kept me really strong, just understanding that it's beyond your control. And then I had to withdraw from the World Cup because I couldn't play. So I had to withdraw from the World Cup, go on 6 months medicine, probably never going to play rugby again. So I took the route of using medicine and my faith, believing that I will play again. And I had to be on medicine for 6 months, didn't play the game, watched the Springboks win the World Cup. And then afterwards, I joined them doing the World Cup routes through South Africa. And what a feeling that could be, celebrating with everybody, but, not being part of it. But you have no control over these things. So, and then I was just fortunate to have another 10 years of my rugby career. So, yeah, it was quite a setback. But I mean, if you speak to any sporting or any rugby player, that's part of the journey. And nobody knows what happens behind the scenes, and the depression and the mental challenges you go through. I was still quite young, so I had still a long life or career ahead of me. So there was still, some positivity in that. I think if I had to heed it, like at the end of my career, it would be a different thing.
Did you notice anything when you got back, like in terms of your lung capacity or anything in terms of performance?
Before we discovered it, I had a lot of difficulty breathing. That's where I actually, the night before we went to the doctor, I actually thought I was going to die because I was in the hotel room. I couldn't breathe while I was sleeping. I had a lot of difficulty, and you know how these things are. That's why I'm saying I have a lot of empathy with players, because you suppress a lot of things because you just go on because you're like a machine. And so I just thought, well, flip, I'm just having a bad infection or whatever. And then the next morning we had to go for scans. And so I had a lot of difficulty breathing. And then, we saw the scans, and, we saw the blood clots. And that's extremely, extremely dangerous, the fact that you have them and that you're actually still alive. So, and then you have to use blood thinners, injections, things like that to get rid of the clots, and then stabilize your blood again, so you can get back doing contact sports. So that's why I'm saying it's a miracle actually that I could play again.
I mean, they actually thought at the time you would potentially have to retire from more sports, didn't they? As a blow to the head could have potentially resulted in you bleeding out into your brain and dying.
Yeah, look, I think the game and the regulations on the game has changed also quite a bit. It's 15, 16 years ago. So if you look at what's happening, with the high tackles and red cards and even like concussion regulations, it's getting more strict. And I mean, I must say, being honest, watching rugby now and looking at what you put your body through, you cannot actually imagine what you are doing while you're playing the game, because it's just part of your life. You don't feel it, you just do it, and what you do. But I think scientifically, when doctors look at it, it makes no sense to them at all. The fact that human adult men are running into one another with all the risks involved. So that's why I'm thinking the regulations, is becoming more strict and strict.
I often stand at the side of training and watch a maul session, and I go, imagine bringing a random person that's never seen this sport before, and they watch a maul session where the forwards acting like complete idiots. Just 8 men just absolutely smashing into each other with a ball in the middle. And you look at, sometimes you look at me, you're going, imagine you didn't have a clue. You'd be like, what is going on there? What a stupid sport. What is that?
When you play, you don't think about it. You don't think about it like that.
You love it. Yeah, exactly.
Scrums, even worse.
Love it. Yeah, scrums, amazing.
Sorry, so what are these lot doing here? Oh, they're just going to all like bind up in a big mass and just
weaponize their necks and try to dominate each other for a ball. How good. Yeah.
I can't imagine playing at Loftus helps with the lung issue either. Like, been there a few times and altitude, like, I'm guessing it had nothing to do with it, but
it's beautiful, eh?
It's like
it was one of our secrets. Well, it helped us a lot of times, but we got some proper lessons there too.
Yeah, but do you believe in that? Because we chatted about it, and we'd often travel up just for a 24-hour period because they said try and get in and out so that it doesn't actually have too much of an effect on you. Do you agree with that?
I think to a certain extent, but again, like everything develops, I think a lot of it's in the mind, but it's a fact. I mean, we can feel it when we go down to the coast, how much more oxygen you have.
Right.
But the reality is, I mean, the intensity of the game still makes you so tired. I mean, that's actually the reality about the game is like you're gonna be flat tired no matter where you play, at altitude, under altitude, in water, underwater. It's irrelevant. You're gonna have to fight for everything. So I think it does make a difference in the beginning. The British Lions, when they toured 2009, they did quite a lot of altitude training and they adapted well to it.
Do you still follow the rugby much, Pierce? Are you still a Bulls fan?
Yes, I am. I'm not watching the games as much as I want to, but I'm following it, watching the highlights, every weekend, and just keeping track of all the results, and just seeing where the Bulls are, how they are faring. They had a few difficult weeks now, but they've bounced back.
It was 62-7, was it? They beat Leinster. Did you see that at the weekend, boys?
Yeah, I did see that.
Apparently, Leinster took like a D team out there, and then even though the coaches all flew back before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they flew back the week before. All the coaches flew back, and they left like the academy coaches there with some young boys. And 62-7 later,
apparently it's the biggest loss they ever took. So Bulls took advantage of that one.
Yeah, they did.
I don't think I'll take too much out of the game. I'll just take some confidence, a little bit of confidence, and some bragging rights.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, speaking of bragging rights, you obviously have a few from 2009, leading the Bulls that famous Super 14 title, and then the Lions are in town looking for an upset. The Springboks not letting that happen. It goes down as one of the most physical series in history. What are your memories of the sheer competitiveness of that contest?
Yeah, it was incredible, I must say. So I didn't play the World Cup 2007, so playing the Lions was huge. I think the first thing that you took note of was the massive media attention and the fans, the Red Brigade and Red Army, visiting every town they played in. So massive excitement, and obviously because we had such a strong team, filled with huge success from the Bulls. So going into that, we were quite confident. And I think also something that was interesting for us was, the whole build up to the series then was, a lot gets determined about the teams that gets chosen by the Lions themselves. And we had other ideas of players that they would have chosen for that first test. And when they chose the team, we felt it was in our favor, and that's why we gave them such a hiding at scrum time. So, and that's where we got about 9, or I don't know how many points we got out of scrum penalties. Anyways, that's just like a little side note, but just the build up to the whole series was incredible. And then that first game, there was a lot of nerves that needs to be stilled, and we had a good start, but then they came back. And then going into that second test at Loftus, they actually went into that game quite confident. And then we started the game with a yellow card from Skalkberger, and immediately we were on the back foot for the game, and we were chasing the game the whole time. The Lions were leading, and they were playing exceptionally well. And then we just had the most incredible finish to that game.
You mentioned you were pleasantly surprised by the lineup that they called in that first test. Who were you happy wasn't involved?
So the front row they chose was not the front row we thought they would choose. And then they changed the front row for the second test. It gave us a little bit more confidence going into that first test, and we got a few penalties out of the scrums. Our boys and John Smith was actually playing tight head prop. Bismarck was hooker, and then Beast was loose head. And we got I think we got 3 or 4 scrum penalties. Got 12 points out of the game for that.
Who was the toughest opponent in a red shirt for you?
It's a difficult question to answer. When you play against a team of world-class players. And obviously, somebody who loves to get under your skin is Mike Phillips. So we enjoyed him, myself and Bucky's. Bucky's told him he's got the most beautiful blue eyes.
Yeah, we heard that recently.
Victor Matfield said that.
So that second test was quite physical, because I believe the Lions just thought, listen, they were too filled with nerves in that first test, and now they knew what to expect. And then that second test, they came out firing. They were on fire.
In the third test, you came on as a winger. How was that experience for you in the particular state of the contest and the fact that you hadn't played there for a few years?
Look, I loved playing that year, because we had so much confidence playing with the Bulls, and so they put me on wing that test, and we were chasing the game, and it's difficult when you chase a game and when the opponents are just firing on all cylinders. The Lions put everything they had in that last test. So they were so hungry and so determined, and we fought back, but we ran out of time. So I played a few minutes. I think I played like 10 or 15 minutes maybe on wing. Didn't get a lot of opportunity. And then, we lost that last test, and the Lions claimed that they accumulated more points between the 3 tests. Now they said that they actually won the series, and almost how they talk.
On aggregate.
Yeah, so anyways.
That's how it's measured, Pierre.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's actually not. Nobody thinks like that.
Towards the end of your career, you were competing with Ryan's old pal, Dwayne Vermeulen. You've mentioned him already. Perhaps, dare I say it, a slightly more traditional Springbok forward in a sort of menacing and physical in the right, while you also suitable breaking defenders' lines, playing in the space behind. Do you feel that had you played for any other country, you would have got a lot more caps? Because as Victor Matfield pointed out on here a couple of weeks ago, that way of playing wasn't as allowed in South Africa, if you will.
It's difficult to answer that question. I believe, even though I had the ability to play in space quite a lot, I also, enjoyed running directly. At the Bulls, it was quite part of our playing game. So it's, like I say, it's difficult to answer that, because I think, if you have a different coaching staff and a different flow of play, things might have been different. But also I had injuries later in my career. I had finger injuries. Then I tore my bicep. So that's when my Springbok career actually ended. So I had 1 or 2 finger operations, and then a bicep. I tore my bicep, and that's when Dwayne got his opportunity, and then I actually just never came back into the setup again. No, so again, South Africa has got amazing loose forwards. Probably the most contested position in the team, and it's like even a guy like Evan Roos that's playing for the Stormers now. He's brilliant. I do feel a lot of ways. I see a lot of myself in him, and there's always something more expected of that player because of what he can do. Because of his speed and power. So I know what his challenges are. And then you have a guy like Dwayne that's just a brute and brilliant on the ground and defensively, and a great ball carrier. So I think even later in my career, after I came back from my injuries, it would have been great to be in the Springbok setup, even playing off the bench. When you have a guy like Dwayne starting, and then when the game opens up, when myself come onto the field when I was a bit older, it could have worked, but I didn't ever get the chance again.
What did you do to your fingers?
No, it's just wear and tear, and once, I don't know if you guys ever had finger injuries, but once your ligaments start going, they like all pop one after the other.
They're all
exactly.
gone.
So, and yeah, exactly. So once you get there, you never get back. And once you operate a finger, it's never the same. But that, being injured takes you out of the fold, it takes you out of sight, and then it gives opportunity for other people to come through. So, and then when you come back, you're not always sure if you're going to get that opportunity again.
Yeah, I'm worried about my golfing career when I hang up the boots, because I can't even grip a golf club at the moment. I've got like big old tennis.
This ring finger of mine is also.
There you go.
I had my portion on this hand. So.
Oh man, don't. That's my biggest worry after, is like not being able to use my hands properly. Like
I've had 3 wedding rings already. Like I had a clip-on ring and a twist-on ring, and they all got missing.
That's the same as well. My biggest thing is we don't have coins anymore. Like everything's card, because when people used to put coins in my hand,
Listen, I know exactly. I know exactly.
Like, here's your change shirt. You're like, oh no, this is going to be embarrassing.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Oh, just thankless, contactless. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Jeez, like, not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah, you finished your career by playing for 4 years in Japan and France. How incredible were those opportunities to kind of play in a different country and experience a different culture?
Yeah, look, I think when you live in another country, it's completely different to visiting it. So it's a great privilege to live in another country, because you have the opportunity to experience the culture, the people, and actually then that has the opportunity to change you in quite a lot of ways. Japan is something that I would wish for any person to go and visit. It's an incredible country, how it's run, and going to the Eastern world, it's literally like going to another planet. They do everything we do, they just do it completely differently, and it works. And so Japan was amazing, the way they run their rugby, also the way they play their rugby is a quick game. It's clean, it's hard training, and the respect of the game, the respect of players. And then France, obviously, the culture behind the game, the after match functions and the social aspects of it, and then the singing at the games, the culture. I enjoyed it. I really loved it. Loved living in France. We lived in Montpellier, which is a beautiful part of France. And so yeah, if players have the opportunity to go, I mean, it's a great experience to finish your career there or earn some money, and then live amongst other people, because that's like, living in another country is like getting a degree. You basically understand people a lot better. And you basically, what I took from it all is you see people that are really the same everywhere. The needs that people have are the same. And then you see obviously what countries do well. Our countries are run well, and others are not. So through the governments and banks, and like going to a Japanese bank will take years of your life, even though it's like a first world country. But you cannot imagine how undeveloped their banking system is for such a developed country.
What year were you? What year were you in Japan?
2015, end of 2015, and I promise you, it literally takes hours when you go to a Japanese bank. Hours. So, and they have their ATM machines is still you can put in coins there. So people come with backpacks full of coins to put into the ATM machine. And like you accumulate such a huge amount of coins at your house. We had glasses filled with coins because the money system goes from a 10,000 yen to like a 5 cent.
Yeah, that's true. And but at least they're what you call them robots. At least their robots work, unlike you a lot.
No, but they're incredible people. Yes, amazing. The respect and work ethic, it's incredible.
The traffic light system in Joburg at the moment is a disgrace.
Load shedding, guys. I'm sitting here with a battery light as I'm talking to you. My Wi-Fi has got a router, an inverter, so it's got battery power. This is Africa.
DIA.
Africa.
And what about France? What did you love most about France down there? Because that's, again, must have been a big culture shock going over there and playing in the south.
Okay, I think the language barrier obviously is big. Japan is huge because a lot of people don't speak English. Yeah. France, it's a bit better. You can learn the language, quite quickly. 6 months if you put your mind to it. But again, like just embracing culture and see how people live, see how people eat. It's a huge thing. How the French eat, the bread and yogurt and cheese and wine. And they always have most of the times they have a 3-course meal with a glass of wine in the middle of the day, every day. And like the French are not, they don't like to work really hard. The Japanese love working hard. Yeah. So, and that's where I believe our South African players, that's why they do well, because we have a mindset of survival and a mindset of work. Because you have to, otherwise you're not going to get, not that I'm saying we're better than anyone else, but it's just like the environment in South Africa gives you that mental approach. So when you get to your club, you work hard and you do your best.
Well, that's it. You did work hard. Montpellier, you were tearing trees up. There's clips left, right, and centre of you doing some unbelievable stuff. What happened at the end of your Montpellier career, though?
Yeah, no, it was good, and like I said, it's a huge part of my story actually, because I was playing really well. I enjoyed playing, and then I still actually had 2 more years on my contract at Montpellier. So I was, loving life there. We actually planned on living in France, and we just moved into a new house. My wife was pregnant with our daughter, and I was that's what I'm saying. It's a huge part of my story, because I was actually praying, and then just I was asking God to quicken the work that He's doing in my life. And by the end of that season, we lost against Racing in the quarterfinals, and then at the team function the week after that, we were 6 players that the manager called us into his office, and they just said, "Listen, guys, the club is letting you go." So just like that, because there was a new coach coming in, and then they let myself and 5 other players, they let us go. And the whole team was in tears and et cetera, et cetera. But like for me, like I'm saying, it's part of my story. I just knew, listen, I'm not going to pick up my family again and move now for rugby. I drove my car next to a river, and I prayed. And I asked God, what is it that He wants me to do? And then He just told me, this is it. He said, "No, I want you to close this book. I want you to start running for me." So that's how I decided. Then I stopped rugby right there. And I could have played a few more years, but I believed I did my part. And then we came back to South Africa, and that was like 5-6 years ago. So journey, and now we're here already in George. So playing in Europe is amazing. I would, encourage players to do it, especially if you can play in France. Just experience another culture is great.
Yeah, we just about got enough time. Can you finish off the show with your ultimate 15, made up of the best 15 players you played with for club and country?
Yeah, the best 15 I would say that I played with and against. If I have to start from number 1, I would say Osturant. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Springbok players in here. Hooker will be Bismarck du Plessis. Tight head, Carl Heyman. Locks will be Buckies and Victor Matfield. I didn't play a lot with Eben, even though I think he's incredible. I played like 1 or 2 tests with him before I actually got injured. 6 would be David Pocock. 7, Richie McCaw. 8, Kieran Reid. 9, Farida Priya, Johnny Wilkinson, fly off. I had the privilege of playing 1 or 2 games against him. 11, Brian Abana. 12, Matt Gito. 13, Conrad Smith. 14, Ben Smith of the All Blacks. And then 15, Frans Steyn.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty low.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. If I have to say myself.
You do all right with that one.
On our quickfire sort of outro we tend to go for, who's the best player you've ever played with?
Farida Priya.
Yeah, a lot of South African boys say that. Rory's the man. Yeah.
Best player you've ever played against?
Probably Dan Carter.
But he didn't make your team.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
but
He was keeping it well.
Okay.
he
didn't want to put just All Blacks and Springboks in. He wanted to keep it.
He had to put one in because he's like, trust me, there's only Max that's English on this show, so you didn't need
don't worry
that
about it. Good, yeah.
And Pierre, finally, who's the player who's rubbed you up the wrong way the most in your career?
So I didn't play a lot against him, but Mike Phillips. But then I played Nick White. Okay. I played with Nick White at Montpellier, so I enjoyed playing with him. But playing against him, oh my greatness, I didn't enjoy that.
There we are, the 9 strike again.
Yes, yeah. I've got a good relationship with him.
Great. Well, sadly, that is all the time we've got left for this week. A huge thank you to Pierre for taking us through his fabulous career. And a huge thanks to Max and to Ryan, as always, and to you all for listening and watching. And we will see you all next week.